Hi and welcome to my project vlog for the Novice Sweater Chunky Edition by PetiteKnit. If you don't know who PetiteKnit is, she's a really popular knitting pattern designer. But I think most people in the knitting community will know who she is because I think she's probably the most famous one. But if you don't know her, the Novice Sweater is one of her beginner-friendly patterns. It is written so that you can make it as your first sweater. It's got lots of explanations and goes really into detail, and she really holds your hand throughout the whole pattern. So it's a great first project. I've already made a Novice sweater before, but this will be my first time knitting the Novice Sweater Chunky Edition. The Novice sweater is on 6mm needles, I believe, and then this one is on 7mm, so it's a bit thicker. I'm going to be using the long yarns Cloud in the number 10. Here's the yarn. I'm really excited to start this project. I actually got the yarn for this and the pattern maybe like 3 years ago, and I started knitting it and then I can't remember why I put it away. I think I just got some different yarn in the mail and just never got back to it. And then when I did look at it, I think I'd made like a mistake. I can't remember if I'd done the increases either too soon or too late, like a centimeter or so, too early or too late. So I decided to just frog the little process I'd made. It wasn't that much really, maybe like 10-15 centimeters of work, but I'm just gonna keep the ribbing because that one is correct. There's nothing wrong with that one, but I'm thinking since it's been 3 years, my knitting tension might have changed a bit, especially because I think I was knitting it using metal needles, but now I'm using wooden needles, and if you didn't notice, a lot of the time you actually have a different knitting tension using a different type of needles, like the material I mean. But since I know that the increases were done like a centimeter too early or too late, I'm just gonna frog the whole thing and restart anyways from the ribbing. I'm really excited to knit with this yarn again, the Cloud by Long Yarns. It's super soft, super fluffy, it's got the most beautiful colors. I've used it once before and I'm really happy with it, but when I used it last time it was held double and it got really heavy. It was the Marble Sweater by PetiteKnit, I think it was called, and when I blocked it, it got so much bigger, like mostly longer, not so much wider but just a lot longer. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I knit my Novice Sweater Chunky. So to begin with, I'm just gonna frog whatever little process I had made 3 years ago, and then I'm just gonna pick up the stitches around the ribbing. I already knitted it down, so it should be easy enough, and the stitches are pretty big, so let's get started. A small update. I really love the colors. It's working out really fast. As you can see, I have beautiful colors, and this is what I started. Just picked up the stitches right here, but I just wanted to share with this yarn that already after just knitting this much, there's been one of those factory knots, and what's annoying is that this yarn changes color, and they just attach two different colors together, so it doesn't have that gradual effect where they tie the knot, which is annoying that it already happened after just this much. So we'll see if I get a lot of factory knots. I can't remember that there were many of them when I used it last time, but then I held it double, so I don't think I would have really cared that much. But obviously when you change the yarn, it's gonna be a bit visible anyway, but I'm gonna try to do my best to keep that in mind so that I don't get any like sudden changes, so that I get that gradual change over the whole sweater. I'm still working on the increases, so I'm gonna go back to that. Just a little update about the yarn, really. Obviously not got anything to do with the pattern. A little bit disappointed with that, but I also think you can't really do much about the factory knots. Like, you get them in the cheapest yarns and you get them in the more expensive ones. I just wish they would have tied a knot with the same color, so that you get that gradual change, not just like, for me it was a bright pink and then like a light grayish green, so that just looks a bit ridiculous. But I put that change on the side, like off the shoulder, so I'm hoping it won't be very visible. I'm gonna knit a few more rounds and then see if it's visible, or if I should go back and try to find that color in the different yarn skein and attach it that way. But I also don't want to have to end up losing a lot of yarn doing that the whole time, and also go through all that trouble and time and have to weave in all those ends if it's something that's happening a lot. Obviously when I run out of a yarn skein, I'm gonna have to get a new one, and I'll try to make sure that I pick one that goes with it as much as I can do that. But yeah, let's get back to knitting. This is how much I got done the first day. I just done the last round of increases, the 4th round, before bed, and then I knitted like a couple rounds after that. So today I'm just gonna be knitting in the round, no more increases, I think for about 8 centimeters or 7 centimeters, and then I'm gonna be dividing for sleeves and body. So we'll see how much I get done today. I already almost finished one yarn skein. This is how much I've got left of the yarn. So about to start on my 2nd yarn skein. These are 100 grams in one, and I bought 4 yarn skeins for this project, which should be enough. I did do the calculation, so it should be enough. It was just under 4 I needed, it said. But then I am a bit tall, so I might make it a bit longer, if I have enough yarn, that is. But let's get knitting. Hi, I thought I should do a check-in because I have divided it into body and sleeves. And I've started knitting the body a few centimeters here. It's working up quite fast. not as fast as I expected. I was thinking maybe this would take me like 3 or 4 days, but now I'm thinking it will be a bit longer. I don't think I'll do 1 yarn ball a day like I originally thought, 4 yarn balls 4 days. It's still a fast project and I don't mind that it takes a bit longer than I thought it would. It's too hot to wear it now anyways, and I don't know what I'm gonna knit next, so I'm just gonna take my time with this one and enjoy some mindless stockinette knitting. I did make a mistake whilst I was doing the increases. I done one too little increase. That's something I've definitely done before, because for some reason when I get to the last stitch, when I get back to the stitch marker, I'm thinking like, okay, that's me done. But I forget that I'm actually supposed to do an increase at the very last stitch too, right next to the stitch marker. But I just tend to move the stitch marker over and then I'm like, I'm done. So this is your reminder to always count your stitches when you're done, so you don't make that mistake. Luckily I only knitted about 20 stitches before I was like, wait a minute, I forgot something. And I went back and checked if I had done the increase at the very last one, and I hadn't. So luckily it wasn't a bad mistake for me this time. But I remember when I was knitting the Novice Sweater the first time, I ended up forgetting it at the last round, but then I just did an extra increase, like I think under the arm or something like that, before I divided into the body and sleeves, just to get the right stitch count. But since it just happened this time and I noticed it quite quickly, I ended up being able to fix my mistake without having to undo a lot of work. That's obviously not the pattern's fault, that's just a me thing. So far the pattern has quite a lot of text, like explaining things as if you're a beginner. I'm not really a beginner anymore, so I'm just knitting this sweater because I really love the sweater. I think it's a really nice design, a great pattern, a fun knit. But I find myself having to scan through the text to get to the point, like where does it say how often I'm going to do the increases, how many stitches am I supposed to have. I have to like scan through, okay, there it is. Obviously not a big deal. I'm thinking I could have, if I had it printed out, I would have just done like a marker on it. But I guess you can still do that on the actual PDF, so maybe I should do that. Yeah, I done a small change from the pattern when I divided it into the sleeves and body. In the pattern, the first thing you do when you divide into sleeves and body is you put your sleeves to rest, but I always thought that where you started would be the middle of the back. And that's kind of what I had in mind when I'd done the color changes, to try and not get it to be visible. I just started with knitting half of the back piece first, and then I'd put the sleeves to rest. So I obviously done the same amount of stitches for the front and the back and the sleeves as in the pattern. I just done it at a slightly different place. I'm also happy to report there's been no more factory knots, and that I found a match for when my first yarn skein ran out with a second yarn skein without having to unroll any of the yarn to find the correct color. I was lucky enough that there was a green at the beginning of one of my yarn skeins, which is why I ended on the first one. So it's all good news right now actually. A little mistake was fixed and I am now just gonna cruise through the body. It's been a few days since my last update because I've not been feeling that motivated. I have been knitting, but it's been going slow, and you might remember I left off saying that there's not been any more yarn knots, so it was just the one case, but that's not the case. About 2 minutes after I filmed that clip and I continued knitting, there was another yarn knot, and in addition to that, the yarn started getting really uneven with thick little dots of yarn and then like a super thin string. So I've just been a bit disappointed with the yarn. I'm not sure if this is just a bad batch or if this is normal for the long yarns cloud. If you've knitted with it, please let me know if this was the case for you too. Another reason why I've not really been knitting that much or filming that much is because I don't love how thin the stripes are. I was kind of hoping they would be thicker like they are at the beginning and on the sleeve. I have started on the sleeve and I do really like how the yarn is on the sleeve. I just think on the body the stripes are just too thin, and I kind of wish I'd knitted it in a smaller size so that it'd be a bit thicker and so the sweater wouldn't be as big. But somehow, even with my lack of motivation, I've managed to finish one sleeve. I think the colours are really beautiful at this sleeve, and that's why I obviously want the body to look like this too. I know that's not possible unless they like made a separate yarn skein for the body where the stripes last longer, which I think that would be a good idea. But I think the sweater is growing on me, and I think once I block it, it might be a nicer fit. I think it also just sits a bit weird right now. It doesn't fit the same as the Novice sweater I have. And one of the reasons why I wanted to knit the Novice Sweater Chunky is because I love the way the Novice sweater sits, and obviously also because I've had this yarn for 3 years. I actually found the receipt for it in the last yarn skein, and it said that I got it in 2022, pretty much exactly 3 years ago. So it's about time it got used, so I'm just gonna finish it. I probably could have made it a size smaller or size down to a 6mm needle. I think I'm a bit off gauge, hence why it's even bigger than I planned. But considering how far I've come and also the fact that the yarn is so uneven, so I'll either need to cut off a lot of yarn and then try to find connecting colours to still have that gradual changing colour effect, or I'll just need to leave it like that, but I don't really want to frog it and then just have the same issues again. So I'm just going to continue knitting and hopefully I'll be happy with the result once I blocked it. I've started on the left sleeve yesterday. I was going to try to finish it then too, because I just wanted to be done with this sweater so I can start on something new, because I don't want it to be sat another 3 years. I'm still lacking a bit of that motivation, so it's not been going very fast. I'm not sure how much time I've spent on this now. It's probably been about a week or so. So I'm just looking forward to finishing this sweater. I'm gonna try to do the left sleeve as quickly as possible. I have knitted this much so far. It's a rainy day, I've not got much planned really. I've got a few things I need to get sorted, but other than that, I'm just gonna try to get this done. It's done. I just finished it this morning. I had done almost everything yesterday, but it was getting really late and I had about 3 centimeters left of the ribbing on the last sleeve, and I just done that this morning, weaved in all the ends, and what's left is just to block it. Now that it's done, I actually do really like it and I love it a lot more once I've actually tried it on. I like the way it sits, except for that it has these little like folds at the front. But I'm hoping that the blocking will fix that. I think it might also just be because it's a bit too big, so I can kind of like squish them down like that, but after a couple minutes it just makes these little folds again. Earlier I was saying about how I don't really like how thin the stripes are, but I think now that I've put it on, I think it is a really nice sweater and I love the colours and I am happy with the overall results, especially considering all the problems I had with the yarn. I can't even really remember how much I'd said about the yarn problems last time, but there's definitely been a lot of factory knots and the yarn has been really uneven. At one point there was literally just a white like polyester or nylon string, no yarn at all. It's all just a bit disappointing considering this is a yarn on the more expensive side and I would have expected more. I've been wanting to just throw this whole project away so many times, and the yarn was so uneven for a really big portion of the last skein especially that I couldn't really cut it all off because I'd end up not really having enough yarn left. I barely have anything left as it is. So I ended up just knitting with it as it is, tried to get the thick knots at the back, and for the thin parts I was just like, it's just gonna be the way it is. It's gonna look extra homemade, I guess. I also tried my best to do any like ugly parts, like whether that be the color change or the weird texture at the back of the arm, so that it won't be that visible, or like on the side of the sweater where my arms go, so that it's not as visible, which is like fair enough, like about the color change, but the inconsistency in the actual yarn is just a bit ridiculous. This experience has just put me off this yarn, at least for a little while, even though I do think the colors are really beautiful and I really love how the sleeves turned out. Such nice colors, and I like how this one's like darker on the edge and then this one's more light, so that they're not the same. So I'm gonna block it and put a little post block update up, but that was pretty much it for my Novice Sweater Chunky Edition. Let's just go through the blocking. It's the next day now, and my sweater has been blocked and it's now dry. As you can see, the folding issue is not really an issue anymore, so I'm happy with that. The sleeves are a little bit longer, not a lot, so they're still a really comfortable length, so I'm happy with the length. The length of this sweater is maybe a couple centimeters longer, but nothing massive, so it's a good length on me, I think. And I think the sweater is a lot softer after it's been washed and blocked too. However, the yarn inconsistency obviously didn't really block out much. I still have thicker yarn at points and really thin yarn at certain points that I just wasn't able to cut off because I was fairly certain if I'd done that I would run out of yarn. But basically there's parts where it's super thick and then super thin, like it looks like there's not even really a stitch there. It's almost white from not really having any proper yarn color or yarn thickness. Like, this is the kind of thing that I was forced to cut off, and I left things that weren't much better because I had to, because I didn't get an extra yarn skein to make up for everything I didn't know I would have to cut off. I did continue knitting with thread that wasn't much better than this, but at least it had some color instead of just being string. And this is exactly what I've seen a lot of the time, these little thick knots right here, which obviously make the sweater be quite inconsistent and that gives that homemade look. That is me trying to stay positive about it, but I expected more considering that this is a 17-pound yarn. I had to put all the mistakes with the yarn where it would be hidden, like under the arm, on the sleeve, on the side of the body, on the side of the shoulder, where it wouldn't be super visible. So I think the sweater turned out well considering everything, but I just feel a bit disappointed I had to do all of that with such an expensive yarn. I'm really interested to know if I just got really unlucky or if you guys have also experienced the same thing, and to what degree, and if it was with the same yarn or different yarn, please let me know. I want to know what yarn to stay away from and what yarn you recommend so that my next project is a bit more successful. Yesterday I was really happy with the project when I put it on because it actually looked quite nice on, but seeing it up closer, seeing all these little details with the super thin yarn and then super thick, I'm not that happy, and I think I was more just relieved yesterday that I was done knitting it and I can start knitting something else now. I will definitely still be wearing the sweater a lot because it is a lovely soft yarn and it's nice colours, the drape is good, and I managed to put all the yarn inconsistencies on the sides where they would be less visible. So it's definitely going to be a sweater that I use, but I don't have any plans to knit with this yarn in the future until I hear other people's experiences, if this is something normal or if I was just really unlucky and this was just a one-off case. Now about the pattern's great. I don't have any complaints there. It's really well written, like all of PetiteKnit patterns usually are. It's super beginner friendly, really detailed, it's got video links, and I think it's a great first beginner project. If you want to knit this as your first sweater, you can definitely do that. But maybe choose a different yarn. I know it's really beautiful and I've seen a lot of knitters actually use this yarn as the first project, so maybe it was just a bad batch, but also maybe not, I don't know. Please just let me know in the comments what your experience has been with this yarn, if you have knitted with it before. And I think that was all for this project blog. I'll keep you updated on how it holds up. If there's a lot of piling, I'll give an update on that in my knitting podcast episode. Maybe the second episode, maybe the third, we'll see, but I'll definitely let you know once I've worn it enough. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you'd let me know if you like this type of video, kind of a project vlog, knitting vlog style, or if you prefer just the podcast. I think it's been fun to make and it's been nice to have someone to vent to during this project. Let me know if you want to see more, or if you have any thoughts or comments, questions. Let me know down below and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!